Hello and welcome back. I'm Jean Gallagher with Discover Rising Tides, and I'm here with Denise Stegall. Hey, Denise.
Hey, Jean.
And we're talking about the 3 keys to successful leadership and why they work. And we have covered number 1 was regular exercise, and number 2 was, of course, balanced nutrition. That's always on Denise's list. Number 3, what is it?
Dun, da, da. And number 3, the third key to successful leadership and successful, healthy living, happy life is getting adequate sleep, getting enough sleep. When we're busy, it seems to be the first thing or one of the first things that kind of goes out the window. Truly, the first 3 things that, the 3 keys to successful leadership, exercise, balanced nutrition, and sleep. When we're busy, those are the first 3 things to go. And that is why these are the key to successful leadership, because successful leaders know that these are essential for them to be the leader who they want to be. So why does it work? Obviously, when we're sleeping, we are resting. We're resting our body. We're resting our mind. We're also letting our brain kind of bring in and remember all of the things that happened that day. Well, there's so many things that happen during the day that like our body our brain gets it, but they kind of store it somewhere and they're like, okay, we'll get back to that. But it's at night when we're sleeping that they actually become memories. And especially if these are things that are important to your business, your family, as a leader, if this is something that's important for their livelihood and their company, sleep is essential because they want to make sure that they go to a meeting and they remember everything that was said. Yes, of course, they're taking notes, but how many times have you had a conversation with someone and like 2 days later, they don't kind of remember the details because they haven't been sleeping? They're like, oh yeah, I remember that conversation. What did we say? It's being sleep deprived is one of the number 1 reasons why that happens to people.
And it's very difficult if you're working in a fast-paced, high-pressure job that you spend 12 hours at work, and it's hard to shut that off. And it's easy to continue working until you really can't function any longer. And so making those priorities is very difficult.
It is. And again, it's a bit about boundaries. What we all want to be successful at, whatever it is that we want to be successful at, right? And we can, I could sit here all night long. There's always something that I could write, that I could comment on, that I could follow up on or create. It's never ending. But is that really what I want my life to be? And what are you willing to give up to be successful in whatever that is, whatever that means to you? I think that's one of the challenges that so many of us have, especially, working from home, whether we're working from home full-time or part-time, is, are we working from home or are we living at work? Right? And I think most of us are working from home. And so with that, we absolutely need to set boundaries. There needs to be, this is my this is my schedule. I work from this time to this time. And then at this time, guess what? The computer gets shut off, the lights get shut off, and I go upstairs and I don't come back down to my office until the next day.
Or check your email on your phone.
Or check email on the phone.
Actually, it's
impossible. It is. So I really try after 6 p.m. I try not to look at my phone. It's hard because sometimes I'm like, oh, let me Google that, whether it's a recipe or something interesting, or, my mom will call and say, hey, what do you know about XYZ? And I'll just Google it. It's easier for me to Google it while I'm talking to her rather than saying, well, mom, just go Google it. So this way I Google it and we have a conversation. So that is definitely part of it, getting enough sleep and boundaries, like they go hand in hand. We know for sure, and there's been study after study, adults need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep per night. Now, if you're a 7-hour person or a 9-hour person, I'm one of those that sits in the middle. I'm an 8-hour girl. If I get less than that, a little slow in the morning.
Mhm.
Rarely do I get more than that unless I haven't slept well the night
Mhm.
before,
Mhm.
which I actually had a challenge with one night this past week. Last week, I guess, because today's Monday. So one night last week, I woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning and I could not go back to sleep.
Mm.
Didn't have a lot on my mind. Don't know what was going, but I just could not go back to sleep. I went down out into the living room, thought, well, let me lay on the couch for a little while. Staring at the ceiling, couldn't sleep. Went downstairs to the spare bedroom thinking, oh, okay, so this, I'll be able to sleep in the bed, right? Same thing, just could not sleep. I was awake till about 5 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
And then finally went back to bed and thought, I've got to sleep now. And I did fall back to sleep for a few hours. I've lost a good 4 hours of my 8 hours of sleep.
Mhm.
So the next day, so this must have been Thursday because this was on Friday where I slept late. I didn't get out of bed until 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
And that's not like me. I needed that extra sleep. So, when you know your how many hours you need to sleep, if you don't get it that one night, most people it doesn't affect. It really affected me. But over time, half hour here, an hour there, an hour, every night, if you need 7 hours and you're getting 5.5, 6,
It
that is
compounds.
just it compounds and you can't make it. It's not like, oh, I'll make it up on the weekends. It doesn't actually work.
Mm-mm. And so what about your habits prior to going to sleep, and how important is it to have good habits, and really what are good habits?
The first habit I tell everyone is really, really important is to go to bed at the same time every night. Even with daylight savings time, coming or going, if you go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, go to bed at 10 o'clock at night. Now, obviously, you have a date night, there's a party, whatever, that night you may not go to bed the same night. But the following night, go to bed at 10 o'clock. That gets your body into a rhythm. And we've talked about, the circadian rhythms. Your body, your body likes to be asleep when it's dark and wake and be awake and active when the sun comes up, which is one of the reasons why I like to go down to Florida in the wintertime, because I live so far north that it really does mess with it doesn't mess with my circadian rhythm. My circadian rhythm is different. I can sleep until 8 o'clock because that's when the sun comes up this far north.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily productive for me. So, circadian rhythms are, they're our body. We actually can't like change the way our body is meant to work. We try. And for people who work shift work, it takes a lot of time for them to be able to do the shift work. But then if their shift changes, it's really difficult for them to shift again. Because for people, I worked at one job back in the day. I worked 6 o'clock at night till 2 in the morning.
Mm. Yeah.
I was tired all the time. My body didn't know when to sleep. It took me a year of working that shift to feel that I was managing it. And then what happened? As soon as I got used to it, I went back to working 9 to 5.
Of course. And so what are good habits, or what are good actions or activities or non-activities to do prior to bed that can help your body get ready to relax?
Okay, first things first, this thing, at least an hour before you go to bed, put your phone away. Don't look at it. Same thing with if you're reading on a tablet or a Kindle, don't do that before bed. Those are great when you're traveling. If you're on a plane or a train, they are really bad before you go to bed because it still has a white light or a blue light. You're having that challenge with the blue light. And your brain is saying, oh, it's still light out. So your brain is saying, it doesn't think it's time to sleep. So at least an hour before you go to bed, get rid of your electronics. And yes, TV is one of those. So that's first and foremost. So I guess, go to bed at the same time, get rid of your electronics an hour before. one of the things that I think is really, really important is to either, do some relaxation, whether that's taking a shower. I mean, when you get in the shower and you've got that nice hot steam, it kind of puts you to sleep.
Mhm.
That's a great, great way to do it. Deep breathing. A little bit of, I actually like to do a little bit of stretching before I go to bed, just some light stretching, because if I've been sitting, which I've been sitting a lot today, I'm going to be stiff.
Mhm.
And if you're stiff and you get into bed and you're uncomfortable, it's going to wake you up.
Mm.
So those are things that I think are really, really important. And they'll help you to get good quality sleep, which of course is going to increase your cognitive function,
Mhm.
your emotions, overall health, all of those things that we talk about when it comes to healthy lifestyle. Sleeping is key, is number 3 key to successful leadership and successful health. If we want to be healthy, we need to really rejuvenate our bodies. And that's what's happening when we're sleeping. Our brains need it, our bodies need it. When you think about leaders, you want to be able to wake up and be a problem solver
Mhm.
first thing in the morning. And if you're getting your sleep, your brain is ready when you wake up and it's on fire.
I think that your 3 key points here, that your regular exercise is going to affect your sleep positively,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
your balanced nutrition is going to affect your sleep.
Mhm.
So understanding that it is a package deal, it's not just do one and hope that the others just kind of fall into place. The importance of having all 3 areas that you're working on, because they affect the others. If you're not sleeping well, you're not going to want to have regular exercise. If you're not sleeping well, you have a better chance of not making good food decisions. So, and if you're not eating well, you're not going to sleep well and you're not going to exercise well.
And we're talking about leadership, and I say always say whether you want to be a leader of a company or a leader of you, when you prioritize these 3 keys, you can handle stress better, you have better focus, you make better decisions, and you really become a role model for those people around you, whether it's a team, your family, whoever it may be that you're in contact with. You actually inspire them to be
Mm-hmm.
better, make better decisions themselves.
Well, thank you, Denise.
You're welcome.
This has been a wonderful segment. I've enjoyed it immensely. And
I always
and
enjoy talking with you. We always have fun.
And so if anybody has any questions or needs some help or an assistance, to reach out to Denise, and she will be more than happy to walk you through these areas. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm Denise Stegall. I am the Healthy Lifestyle Coach, or the Healthy Living Liaison, and curator at livinghealthylist.com. And I'm really excited today about my recent conversation with my friend, Jean Gallagher. Jean is a financial advisor with Seaside Solutions and the amazing host of the podcast, Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. We had an in-depth conversation on the topic of, get this, contentment, and why that is actually a bad thing for you. Watch more and subscribe to Discover Rising Tides at discoverrisingtides.com. I'll see you there.
1. Hello, everyone. My name is Jean Gallagher, financial advisor and founder of Seaside Solutions and founder of Discover Rising Tides. Welcome to show number 29, Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better, where we explore the importance of the outdoors and maintaining life balance. Through this series, we'll be talking to women business owners to understand their journey. And we'll also be hearing from Lynn Schuessler-Williams, author and coach, in her segment, Rising Up. But first, today I'm excited to introduce Erin Marcus. Hi, Erin. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Great. And this is a redo. We had some technical issues the first time, but before we get into, or in the second time, so before we get into everything, let me just read your bio quickly. And
Sure.
so Erin is the founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business, an international company helping entrepreneurs and small business owners get out of reaction mode so they can be in charge of their business and in charge of their lives. Having made the successful leap from corporate executive entrepreneur to entrepreneur, she uses the experience along with her MBA education and street smart upbringing to help her clients reach the heights that they never dreamed possible and having fun doing it.
Gotta have fun, or what's the point, right?
Isn't that the truth?
Didn't do that. I say that all the time. I did not quit a 6-figure job I love to be miserable.
That's right. Yeah. And so the challenge with that is, I came from the corporate world too before I went out independently, but in a different field altogether. But what a lot of people think that getting into your own business is easy.
No, it's not easy, but it doesn't have to be miserable.
Right, exactly. And so that's really the point I want to make. There's such a difference between hard work and for yourself and hard work for somebody else. You can be miserable in both places.
Right, exactly. And hopefully you're going to work hard in both places.
Right.
So, right. And so if that's your default, your default, why not do it for yourself?
Exactly. So as we not get ahead of ourselves, to work through the challenges of being on your own.
You froze up on me for 1 second. I missed the first half.
So you left a job that you loved. Why? Number one, right? And then moving to being on your own with those business challenges. But I think also the harder thing for people that are leaving the corporate world is, like you said, you had a 6-figure job. Yeah. So that's very difficult emotionally to break that and then go without a safety net.
So it is and it isn't. So here's how I'll put that to you. Number one, you don't want to be the person, the hard part is having the conversation with your mother that you're leaving a 6-figure job, right? Especially when there aren't entrepreneurs in the family, right? So that's one piece of it. Me leaving corporate falls under the umbrella of, I'm glad I didn't know what I didn't know, because if I knew, I probably wouldn't have done it. If I knew, I probably wouldn't have done it. So what I find, and what my own journey was as well, and it's why I love working with these people so much, is I did really good in corporate. I had a great job. I had a great career. I won awards. I had accolades. I had fun. I got to work with amazing people. And I thought, I'm like, wow, Erin's so smart, right? I think I'm freaking brilliant. Of course, I'm going to be great as an entrepreneur, right? I'm like, I did so well in corporate. Of course, that's going to translate, and I'm going to be great as an entrepreneur. And what I learned the hard way was I was brilliant and great on a set path, right? With bumpers in the gutters. I did really, really well. I'm not, trying to downplay what my accomplishments were, but people underestimate the structure that a corporate job provides.
Oh, that is true.
Right. You underestimate the structure. You underestimate, even especially for really driven people. Like, I'm a very driven person. I underestimated the level of accountability that comes inherent with a job, especially a corporate executive level job. And I thought I just did things because that's what I was supposed to do. Well, yeah, until you're scared out of your mind and you don't know what to do and you're up against everything that makes you insecure, right? Then it becomes perfectly reasonable to like match the Tupperware to the lids instead of doing the blog, right? But I didn't know that, right? And so there were things that I came out of corporate with that served me very, very well. Number one is a work ethic, right? We're used to working full days. Number two was the idea of delegating. There's never been a bone in my body that made me think I had to do this all myself. And I attribute that to my corporate experience, and I attribute that to a reason for my success. But there was a lot coming out of corporate that wasn't so helpful.
Like what? What's not so helpful?
What's not so helpful, especially if you've reached a certain level in corporate where you're making decisions, corporate jobs, corporate companies, and by corporate, I'm just meaning larger scale companies, not anything fancier than that, but they live and survive in a risk adverse environment, right? Every decision is carefully thought out with, keep me off the front page of the newspaper for the wrong reason and the deciding factor, right? There's a lot of risk adversity and risk assessment, and let's spend 1,000,000 hours and $1 million into figuring out if this is the right thing to do before we even do it. As an entrepreneur, your success is tied to how much risk you can kind of handle without passing out. So automate.
Or showing up on the newspaper for the wrong reason.
So automate, right? And I always say, so automate it. So the next 2 steps happen regardless of whether or not you're conscious, right? You're up against a different way of thinking. What I love and what I laugh about now is I'm probably completely unemployable because I can't go back to have 8 meetings for 7 people to make 5 decisions over the course of 6 months. Now, and I'll be perfect example, I was trying to come up with a way in my business to serve people at a certain level, to fill out my portfolio of offers. And the first 3 things, nobody wanted them. 0 people, like nobody wanted them. The 4th thing I came up with has been a huge success. The beauty of being an entrepreneur is that entire experience of coming up with 3 different ideas that nobody wanted, having the conversations to figure out why, and coming up with the 4th thing that is finally being really well received took 45 days total, and I don't think cost me $1,000.
Wow. But for a lot of people, you get past the 2nd thing and then you start to try the 3rd thing, and then you're like, well, this just doesn't work, and you go back and work for somebody else again because it's easier.
Because it's right. Well, it's easier because it's not as scary.
It's defined, so it's easier.
Right. And also it's easier. It's only easier. Think about it this way. It's only easier when you see your business as an extension of your self-worth. The reason, right? The reason I was able to go through 3 iterations of failure to a 4th iteration of success in 45 days was because I've done enough work and studying and practice and journaling and maybe crying to right, to make that separation, that I now am able to fully embrace the idea it's feedback, not failure. I came up with 3 things never to sell in my business again. This is very important information, right? This is very important information. And I don't see it as a failure. I don't see it as Erin's stupid. I have no idea what I do. It's easy. It would be easy to go down that rabbit hole.
It's business, not personal.
It's business.
And being able to separate the 2, but it is still personal as well. But being able to separate, I guess, how you identify, you have to not identify yourself with 3 failed attempts. You have to identify yourself with the ability to problem solve and listen to feedback.
And we did that. That was another thing that I've had to learn how to do. Whether or not something works or doesn't work, regardless of which way it falls, I reach out for feedback. And I've learned if I reach out for feedback during the successes, it created the habit that allows me to reach out for feedback during the failures without getting upset.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Because it's a normal piece of the process.
It just becomes a normal piece of the process. So, here's the thing, you don't have to make it hard on yourself. You can I'm all for a good hack to make things easier. So if I created the feedback habit during successful situations, it just became a habit and not a bigger story about anything other than, wow, why didn't they want that? Wow, why did they want that?
Right. So let's talk about delegation for a second.
Sure.
So I'm terrible at it. I know it. And there's probably a control issue, right? So in the corporate world, I wasn't necessarily great at it. It was hard for me to delegate, but I learned. And being self-employed, I'm fortunate enough that I'm in a situation where I don't necessarily have to delegate a lot because it's not necessarily one of my strengths. But for people that are, whether you're good at it or not, once you're going off on your own, you can't do it all yourself.
Exactly. And delegation, it really, everything I do in business is reverse engineered.
Mhm.
Start with the end in mind. What is it that I want? Okay, what's the step that exists before that, the step that exists before that, until I get to the point where I am now. And whether or not you need to get good at delegating has a lot to do with what you're trying to accomplish. If you want to be a highly, highly successful, just a couple of clients, you probably don't need to delegate a lot because you're not going to have a large scope to your business. You can just charge a lot and work for a couple people. That is a perfectly reasonable, and I've met several people out there, business model.
Mhm.
However, the truth of the matter is, and this was horrifying, this was not my original concept. I just had a visceral reaction to it when I heard it, so I will share it with you. Especially again, for those of us coming out of corporate where we had income, where we had achievements, a 6-figure entrepreneurial job situation is really only equal to an entry-level job take-home pay. So if it takes getting over $250 a year gross in an entrepreneurial venture for you to make more than what's effectively an entry-level position in corporate, you probably want to grow your business. And I have no problem with people want hobby businesses. I have no problem who people want side hustles. I mean, literally, I can't stress it enough. But if you're going to grow a business, especially if you're a woman, because we need more money in women's hands, freaking go for it. Don't settle just because you don't think you can do it. If you want a small thing, perfectly reasonable, but don't settle just because you think you can't do it, or you're not allowed to do it, or I'm okay with my little thing for any external reason whatsoever.
And sometimes it's hard for people to envision the bigger thing, because you're going from nothing to this big thing in your mind, but you're forgetting that there's growth that happens along the way.
It's iteration. What's the big thing right now? Not what's the ultimate big thing. You're right. A lot of times, if you get too pie in the sky from day one, you don't know what to do today. And one of the phrases that I picked up on in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey was, I needed to hold the vision, but act in the present.
Say that again.
I needed to learn how to hold the vision, but behave and act in the present. That was not easy for me because, again, coming from a successful background, I got in on my entrepreneurial journey and immediately compared myself to everybody who'd been doing their thing for 10 years and basically felt that I sucked all the time.
Yeah.
Less than helpful, right?
Yeah, that's not motivating.
Not motivating at all.
It doesn't help you overcome there's peaks and valleys. There's this great picture of the life of an entrepreneur that I saw. It starts here, 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning or whatever time, cup of coffee, it goes up, and then all of a sudden it plummets.
Great. This is
and
great.
Then you start to build it up and it plummets again. And then after you might get a little up, and so it's that, I call it the rebound rate. And in the beginning, my rebound rate in the beginning was really slow, like months. Yeah, totally. So if something bad happens, or something doesn't even have to be bad, something less than splendid happens,
right?
it doesn't have, it could be a spot on your shirt. It could be anything, right? Because when you're going through, it could be really terrible, but it could be just really small, but emotionally it feels really large.
Yep.
How well are you going to rebound from that?
There's a whole book about that. I forget, but they used athletes as the example. And I particularly remember them talking about tennis players, that how fast you can recover from the emotional stress is a huge indicator of success in athletes. And they talked about the ability to go from losing a point to serving the ball, which is in most cases 15 steps in 25 seconds. Can you get your heart rate down? Can you get your head back to reset that fast? And that's how professional athletes and really high performing athletes, it's one of the traits that they have that allows them, you know, and we see it all the time. They, you know, divers have a massive fail and then have to climb right back up the ladder.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So when you're talking to somebody that's in corporate and they're considering going off on their own, how do people identify their strengths, or what strengths carry over? Or is there a process, or does it differ from person to whatever they're going into?
I think it, the strengths carry over. What I would, you know, there has to be a level of awareness. I just go back to, I'm so glad I didn't know what I didn't know. My first post-corporate meltdown was over, it was like 3 days in, the printer wouldn't print. And I realized I had nobody to call and zero ideas what to do about this, right? So
throw it out, buy a new one.
That was back when
can't do this.
Download print drivers and things. Not my zone of genius. Whatever it is you're good at, surround yourself with people who are good at the other things. The downside, the bad news, it's not downside. The bad news is you can't get ready for this, because it's one of those things, like, you can only get good at it by doing it. A business plan only matters to the bank and no one else cares after that. But, you know, best laid plans. You don't know what's going to happen. So you can only get ready to be ready to do the thing, to be ready for so long. You're only going to get good at it by doing it. And do your homework, save your money. But one day you just have to jump off the cliff. And I do, right? I mean, that's really, you either going to pull the trigger or you're not. I'm a fan of burn the boats, right? I'm a fan of, I'm just going to try this for a couple months.
It's easy to go back. No, not at all. But I agree with the burn the boats part, but there has to be preparation prior to lighting that match.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And so and the preparation is twofold, right? It is not only is your business plan, or do you have some idea what you're going to do? If you're leaving a 6-figure job or whatever job you're leaving, how are you going to, if you expect that you're going to bring money in the next 3 months, you need to revise the plan, because it's probably closer to 6 to 12 to 18.
Yes.
And how are you going to financially set yourself up so that Murphy doesn't show up? Because if you have not enough savings to support yourself, you're going to have that Murphy on your shoulder and things are going to go badly.
Well, and it's right. And what you're describing, the way that I talk about that, is the two things that will kill your efforts. And this is not just as an entrepreneur, like, this will kill your efforts with your mother. This will kill your efforts in a marriage. Like, the two things that just ruin everything in human decision-making, in my opinion, is desperation and insecurity. And when you're insecure, you make bad decisions. And when you're desperate, you have all sorts of wonky energy. And so if you're insecure about being an entrepreneur, you're going to say yes to things you shouldn't have said yes to, and the money's not going to be where it should. And when you're desperate for a sale, people can feel that, because you're making it about you instead of about your client, and their business is not about you.
Right.
And it just messes it up. It's not that you can't grow through those things. It just makes it so hard. So whatever you can do in preparation to lessen your desperation or lessen your insecurity is just going to serve you completely.
Yeah, I like how you put that, because desperation and insecurity are the two things that that are not in your business plan.
No, and you're not expecting them. I mean,
and you don't know when they're going to show up.
And then because they're tricky, you don't think you're even in it, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's fine. It's all fine. I'm just going to work harder. I'm just going to do more, right? And I guess that would lead me to coming out of corporate, I didn't know what coaching was. And it's just a weird journey for me being now a coaching consultant, but that's exactly why I did it. Coming out of corporate, my experience was if you needed to learn another thing, you went to school. I have an MBA, I had certifications. I wasn't prepared for the need for the mindset work. I really was not prepared for the level of mindset work that truly made the difference. That it's an inner game before it's an outer game. And the way that I describe that now is the plan doesn't matter if you can't do the plan. If you can't be the person who does the plan doesn't matter. And I never saw that coming. And I don't know that you can prepare someone for that because there's no frame of reference for it.
So what is the mindset work?
The mindset work is about where your beliefs are about yourself and the world. It's amazing to me, the sneaky little money stories and how they came to play. Because I didn't have them when I was in corporate because I was following the laid out, of course, you're just going to do this path. So there was no reason for the money stories to pop in. There was no reason for the self-worth stories to pop in. So that you have to work hard. So hard to make money. Well, the problem with believing that you have to work hard to make money means you make everything freaking hard before you make the money. Right? Like these goofy things that I just never, like, what if it were easy? Why can't we just do it that way? It took a while for me to figure that out, right? Didn't do it by myself. Because why would, and so learning that side of it, how do you build resilience? Not just from a conceptual level, but an actual, how do you build resilience? How do you build trusting in your own instincts? Going back to the beginning of this conversation, when 3 things in a row have failed, how do you build trust in your instincts and in your decision making?
Yeah. And why would you think that number 4 would be okay? How do you work yourself out of that mindset? Because three sucked.
Right.
Why would 4 be any different?
Why would 4 be any different at that point? Completely.
And so how do you change that? What do you do to say, is it really a self-analysis of what went wrong with 1 through 3 to create how was 4 going to be different? Or do you look at how similar 1 through 3 really were?
I mean, in that particular place, it was 2 things. It was a complete objective look at what were we offering versus what people said they wanted, and what were we willing to do at certain price points. And how do you combine what people said they wanted with what we're willing to do and put that together? But we didn't know what people wanted until they didn't buy something and we talked to them.
And actually talking to them afterwards is invaluable.
And having a sales conversation when they said no, where we asked them, what were their pain points? What were they looking for? Like just having real sales conversations, not transactional conversations. You know, it's one of the first things I try to teach people. You talk about leaving corporate. The only way to get really, really good at marketing and messaging, which is exactly my wheelhouse, like that's my number 1 thing is marketing and messaging and strategy. The only way to get really good at it is to get out there and do it and get the feedback to what you're saying. And you cannot come up with good messaging sitting alone with my cat in my office, right? I have to get out there and talk to other human beings. And that's where that piece of corporate really sends people awry, because they think if they just sit down at their desk with their computer, they'll come up with what people want. And it's not like you're going to be way, way, way off base, but the best messaging comes from the people you're trying to help. And you can't come up with that without talking to them.
And you have to be okay with hearing what they don't want.
And figuring, you know, and then applying what they say they want to what you know would actually make a difference because you're the expert, and then putting that together in a package for someone to say yes to. Right? Because Henry Ford always said, if I would have asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse, right? So we don't want to give them just what they want. You want to take what they say that they want and don't want, look at what it is, the problem that you solve, and what your expertise is telling you. It goes back to, you know, sell them what they want and give them what they need. and putting that together for them.
So your transition from corporate, where you are now is different than where you first stopped after corporate.
Yeah. I left corporate and went into the franchise world because I think that really I needed that bridge. I don't know that I would have left into something a complete unknown. But I come out of the long-term care insurance industry, so it made perfect sense to me, at least in my head. The first thing I did was a franchise of caring transitions, which worked with families with aging parents. We did estate liquidation and senior move management. It was awesome in a million different ways. It was also traumatic because you're in the middle of every family's crisis. I had 15 employees. I mean, I had a great experience. I got my office to the top 10 out of 200 offices in about 18 months.
Wow.
And the franchisor, because of the business background, because they ran it like a business, the franchisor then had hired me to help launch new franchises, speak at their events. And then when I was networking, the chambers that I was networking at, trying to get business for my caring transitions business, they didn't want to hear about families with aging parents. They were all like, how are you growing your business so fast? How are you doing this? And so I just started helping people in that way, which truthfully was some of what I did in corporate. I used to teach financial advisors how to talk to their clients about long-term care insurance, why it was so important, how to build their business that way. So I'd already been doing this. I just didn't realize
it wasn't defined.
It wasn't defined and it was under someone else's flag. So it just didn't occur to me that that's what I was doing. And then in my franchise world, I did it again. I'm like, oh my God, this is so much fun. Like, let's see, I could have a million logistical nightmares working with a family in trauma, or I could help somebody change their lives by making multiple six figures in a year based on a VIP day we put together. I don't know, which do I want to do? Right. I mean, that's really what it came down to in the end.
And that makes the transition. It was really, like you said, you needed a stepping stone.
Yeah.
What you needed that had bumpers,
Yeah,
the franchise, in order to get to something that really had none.
Right. And something that was more uniquely me, that was the other thing, the iteration of Erin just being Erin and not what I had to be in corporate or what I thought I was supposed to be in the franchise world. And now, like, the bumpers are completely out of the gutters because I just do whatever it is I'm going to do. And I say whatever it is I'm going to say. And I've learned that way my people are attracted to me by just being me, and I'm attracted to them by just being them, instead of the mushiness around what happens when you're not able to do that yet, because it's been beaten out of most of us. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the corporate, right. So in the corporate world, you have to really portray what your company expects of you. And so for me, transferring to financial services, there is an expectation within the industry, even though I'm independent within the industry, there's an expectation of how you appear.
Yeah.
And there came a point in time through my transition of doing this for 17 or how many ever years it's been, that I finally said, I don't want to do that, but I want to do this still. So let's be myself. And instead of, appearing like that, and I think you have to actually come to a point that you're comfortable within your business self.
Absolutely.
And your skill set to be able to say, that's not important. I can still have the same skill set, but I can be myself. And then it becomes more genuine. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, how the outside makes the inside better. My name is Jean Gallagher.
Talk about this.
And we talk with women business owners and explore the importance of the outdoors and
it's something that
life
comes
balance
with not just age, but
understand their journey. And also, I am as always, happy to have
a mentor that I work
our
with
Healthy Living, Happy Life segment with Denise Stegall. Hey, Denise.
He always told me the weirder
and
you are,
as everyone knows, Denise is an international best-selling author of Healthy Living, Happy Life, a practical path to finding a healthy lifestyle that works for you, and curator it.
I'm not necessarily so weird, but I'm very blunt.
This month's topic
direct. I am not for everybody.
It's not are.
The more,
it is.
the better I
topic
am at
is
what I do, the more I'm
3
quote
keys to
unquote
successful
allowed
leadership and
to
why they
be
work.
that person and still be successful. Because
I know,
otherwise,
it's
if I would
R,
have tried
it's
this in my
there's
20s,
three
I
of
would have
them,
just
so
been
it
a
should
jerk,
be an
right?
R, but it's actually one topic.
One
What does
topic.
she think she is? What does she know?
I love it.
Right now that, 52
So I love
plus,
this idea
I've
of
got some
3 keys
credentials,
to
right?
successful leadership, because,
It's the
as
creds that matter.
a healthy
Right, I
lifestyle
have
coach,
different creds than I
everybody's
did
always
back in the
thinking,
day.
or
Chicago
they
public
meet me and the
schools.
first thing they go, oh, I know I should be better.
Now,
Oh, I know I
now
gotta
the
lose weight.
Chicago
Oh, I
public
know. And I'm like,
school system can
there's
show up.
Right.
So Nila, tell us a little bit about your coaching business now, and how is it structured? What do you do? How do you
How
do
are we
it?
structured? Oh my God, this is so awesome because I'm excited about what we have finally reached is a point in the business where we have a variety of ways to help people
Mhm.
at different levels, right? So when you're growing a business, you really start out with the higher price one-to-one offerings because you need the money to come in. I tell people that all the time. If you have no audience and you want to launch your business with a $47 course, you will run out of money before you meet enough other humans to buy your course, right? So that's where I started, right, with private coaching. And now I'm very excited to have a 90-day quick win. We're calling it the Entrepreneur Accelerator. It's completely designed to get someone's ball really rolling. Like, not necessarily newbie beginners, but people who are like, all right, I need to make a change. So we have a 90-day program. And then I have 2 group programs for different business levels, which I love because not everyone's at the same level. So the content is more geared towards, are you launching your efforts or are you leveraging your efforts? And that's what we call them, launched and leveraged. And then I have my private clients either through a VIP day or through personal coaching. And I have no attention span. I don't know if you've picked up on that. But what I love about
I'm concerned because I might not have picked that up. So that means that I have the same attention span as you.
good luck. But what it is truthfully is I just freaking love learning about people. I love learning about people and what they do and how they do it and how neuroscience comes in and how do you combine neuroscience with marketing and messaging and strategy to put something together that someone can actually do something with. And now I have enough bandwidth where I get to do that for people at a wide variety of points in their business.
Do you find that, I find this on my side. So when you're talking to different people, the way that they receive information is obviously different. In the conversations that you have with them are different. You might be talking about the same thing, but it's brand new and fresh every single time because it's personalized to either the person or the group, and the dynamics change. So the way that the message is delivered changes. So
completely. And that's my whole point in my business. I just had this conversation with some folks on my team. The reason I hesitated to become a coach / consultant was there were too many people out there, and it wasn't malicious intent. It wasn't any negativity on their part, but they had a good experience with a coach or a program, and they learned to parrot what you need to do. Like the list of 5 things you need to do. And what they didn't know how to do was, how do you break it down into action steps that each individual can take? And how do you customize it to the person you're talking about, to your point, to their communication style, to their goals, to their dreams, to their strengths, to their weaknesses, to their fears. And that's what keeps me very, very interested in what my clients are doing, because the structure of how to grow a business, there's only so many different ways. However, when we apply it to the different people, when we apply it to what they're trying to do, it becomes infinitely more interesting for me. And my goal is to always entertain myself. So that helps. But that's what keeps it fresh for me. I've seen those light bulbs go off for people, right? I mean, come on.
And it makes it, in keeping it fresh is really important, because if you're delivering the same message over and over again in the same way, it becomes very monotone and it isn't very exciting.
Right. You can get a job in a factory and do that, and I can't do that.
Totally. Yeah. So the twofold. One is when you're managing all of these moving parts and you're managing other people, how do you take care of yourself? And then number two, how do you teach people to take care of them, or do you teach people how to take care of themselves while they're going through the pains of learning how to be, so they don't burn out?
So half of my program is basically can be called teaching people how to take care of themselves, because they really do work at the intersection where what you need to do meets who you need to be to do it. And it's not just how you show up and how you make decisions, but it is like we talked about, how do you recover? How do you have resilience? What are the tools? And it's not just, hey, take some time off. That's great, but what the hell do I do with time off? I mean, do you see me sitting still? It's like not a thing, right? So what are the tools to recover? And then personally, I'm very active in animal rescue. For 10, 15 years, I did dog rescue. And when we moved to the west suburbs of Chicago, I'm like, I want to learn something new. I'm sure you're shocked. And I started volunteering at a wildlife rescue. So I'm there just about every Friday. I volunteer at a wildlife rescue where my job, I work outside. You're going to laugh. This is perfect timing. Wait till you hear this. I didn't take a picture of this, but I almost did. I work outside with what I call the teenage animals, the adolescents. So it's not the babies in the nursery. I'm in the cages and the enclosures with the animals that are getting ready to be released, helping them learn how to do what they need to do to be released. So last Friday, I had a large group of adolescent robins. So in order to get them ready, as if cleaning up in general after possums and raccoons and squirrels and birds wasn't bad enough, what do robins do? They dig for worms. So last Friday, I spent a good half hour filling kitty litter trays with dirt and worms so that I could put them in the aviary so the adolescent robins could practice. And halfway through that, I'm thinking, how did I get here? Like, what had to happen? What had to happen and this is so good, because one of the things I teach people and try to relay is your commitment to your outcome has to be greater than whatever is stopping you.
Oh, that's a good one.
Your commitment to your outcome, your desire for the outcome, whether that's for the life you want to live, the what you want to leave your children, charity, foundation, whatever it is, your commitment to the outcome has to be greater than what's stopping you, or you won't get through the hard times.
Right.
Such as filling kitty litter pans with dirt and then go digging up worms to hide them for a bunch of adolescent robins who need to learn how to do that before they're released.
So did they figure it out?
I don't know. My job, I don't interact with them a lot. I set the stage and I leave. We don't bother them a lot. We don't want them to like people. So I had to kind of do it in a way that they didn't see that a person left the worms for them. We don't want them to associate humans with, look, worms. So it was a little subterfuge type of sliding the kitty litter pans in. But I'll tell you, in the last several weeks, I've had speaking gigs, I've had events in my business. We bought a house, we moved. I had some of my own animals had emergency vet situations, and I missed more Fridays than usual this summer, and I could feel it. My stress level was up because, first of all, what I was going through was highly stressful, and I wasn't getting my fill my cup time. And what I like about that role is I have to pay attention. It's not mindless work because there's squirrels and possums and raccoons, and you can get bit or they can get out. So it's not mindless work, but it's back of the mind work. And it allows my brain to quiet down, because I don't meditate. It's called sleeping when I do it. So I can't get that quiet. So I need some kind of somewhat mundane task. And then the rest of my brain chills. And so that's what that does for me.
It's interesting when you get, and it happens to all of us, no matter what's going on, you get so involved in these events that happen one on top of the other. And then all of a sudden you look back and you realize, wait, I didn't do the things that I need to do to take care of myself. And it can all of a sudden happen. And, and that makes you realize how important, no matter what level of being outside is important to you, because it's different from everybody, for everybody. And that's why I love having these conversations, because not everybody's putting worms in a bucket.
I don't understand why not.
Either do I, because it is kind of fun. Digging worms is it. I'm from Maine. It's not unusual.
You get it. Yeah. And I will tell you, so yeah, what I did was I snuck into the baby duck enclosure because the water bowls for baby ducks, when you lift them up, all the worms are there. You got no never realized that information was going to become so useful, but I knew exactly where to go to find lots of worms very quickly.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Maybe we should, I don't know if we can follow that up with anything. So if anybody wants to find worms, or they would like some business coaching,
yes,
how do they find you?
So I want to do something for your listeners. Actually, I just came up with this and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So I'm going to offer it to them. So here's the deal. I am giving away, literally, like anyone who wants it, a 20-minute marketing audit. Like seriously, success is not leaping forward. Success is a series of tweaks. And in 20 minutes, if you tell me how you're talking about your business and what you're doing to get the word out, it can absolutely give you a couple of things to adjust that will make all the difference in the world. Wow. So we're doing 20-minute marketing audits, and all you have to do is email hello@conqueryourbusiness.com. Make it real easy for you. It's hello@conqueryourbusiness.com. Put marketing audit in the subject line or whatever you want, and just say, hey, heard about the marketing audit. How do I make that happen? And we'll make that happen for you.
That's fantastic.
Awesome. I'm excited. I've been enjoying doing them.
That sounds like a
quick
lot
win,
of fun.
Right?
Yeah.
Quick wins.
So thank you. Thank you for this redo. And
this felt really different than the other one. So
I know, right? So we should just do this every once a month or so. We just get together and talk like this.
Totally.
So thanks so much. I appreciate your time today. And hello@conqueryourbusiness.com.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show is sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me. And if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.